Hi guys, welcome to the second webcast for the week. Today what we're going to do is compare and contrast the different types of muscles that we have in our body. And for the most part, this is all going to be found in table 10.2 in your textbook, so you can feel free to follow along if you'd like. And we'll get started. So we've got skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle lined up here. First off, location. Location is going to be found mostly on bones. Mostly on your bones. There's some facial muscles that attach to the skin. You can think of this as muscles found on your skeleton. Cardiac muscles, you can imagine, is going to be found in the walls of the heart. Walls of the heart. And smooth muscle is going to be found mostly in hollow organs. Mostly in hollow organs. Their ability to divide, and this is divide after birth. We have skeletal muscle that you already know is unable to divide after birth. Cardiac muscle is going to be the same way. So both these two cannot divide after birth. However, smooth muscle can divide after birth. Cell shape. Again, all this stuff for the skeletal muscle is going to be review from last time. We have these long cells found inside the fascicles that are stacked pretty closely on top of each other. So we've got 4 cells here stacked on top of each other is what I'm illustrating. For cardiac tissue, you've got smaller cells and they tend to branch out. So I'm drawing 2 cells here, and say you have 2 smaller cells than here, and then there'd be another cell branching out this way and this way, and this is how you're going to see smooth muscle tissue looking. More branched and smaller and lined up with each other. For I'm sorry, that was cardiac muscle. For smooth muscle, you're going to see something called fusiform. Fusiform is what your book calls it. And that's going to be cells that are lined up sort of like this. They sort of, it almost looks like they're mashed together. Apparently this is a fusiform shape. For the nucleation of each of these cells, this is going to be multinucleate. Multinucleate, as we talked about before. So you're going to see many nuclei along the cells. This has to do with how they're created in development. For cardiac tissue, it's going to be uni or binucleated. So on the bigger ones, it's probably going to find more than one nucleus. So uni or binucleated. And then with smooth muscle, you're going to be completely, they're all uninucleated. So you're going to find just one nucleus per cell. For striations, we know that there are striations in skeletal muscle. And we can see these lines coming down here. You're also going to see it in cardiac muscle. It's going to be a little bit lighter, and they're not going to line up as nicely between cells because of the nature of the cells. And you will not see it for smooth muscle. There's no striations in smooth muscle. Connective tissue. Remember, for skeletal muscle tissue we had the outer coating, the epimysium. Then beneath that we had the perimysium, and beneath that we had the endomysium. We had all three of those. For cardiac muscle, you're only going to see endomusium, and that's going to hold true with smooth muscle as well. So you only have the endomusium. The presence of T-tubules, so this is how you get conduction to the deeper part of the muscles. You're going to see T-tubules in skeletal muscle as well as cardiac muscle, and T-tubules are going to be absent in smooth muscle. Sarcoplasmic reticulum, this is one where all three of them have some sort of sarcoplasmic reticulum. All three have some sort of sarcoplasmic reticulum. And some are more complex than others, but gap junctions, remember we talked about this in the first lecture, which is a form of cell-to-cell communication where ions can move between adjacent cells. You aren't going to see gap junctions in skeletal muscle tissue, but you will see them in cardiac muscle tissue as well as smooth muscle tissue. So gap junctions are going to be present in both cardiac muscle tissue and smooth muscle tissue. Neuromuscular junctions, or end plates, which is how the nervous system tells your muscles to contract, or at least your skeletal muscles. You're going to see that in skeletal muscles and in smooth muscles. But this is in smooth muscles, it's only going to be as a multi-unit muscle. Only as multi-unit muscle, not a single motor unit like you do in skeletal muscles. And you will not see that in cardiac tissue. There are neuromuscular junctions. The next one, regulation of contraction. Regulation of contraction. For skeletal, this is voluntary. So you're making an effort to contract a muscle. And it's controlled from your somatic nervous system. Controlled by somatic nervous system. Cardiac muscle, it's involuntary. You're not telling your heart to beat. Involuntary. There's some intrinsic control in the system. Intrinsic control. There's autonomic input. Autonomic input, which is control from your autonomic nervous system. And there's also going to be mechanoreceptors that are going to have input. So stretch. The degree of stretch is going to determine contraction. Then for smooth muscle, it's also going to be involuntary. Also involuntary. It's going to be controlled mostly by your autonomic nervous system. Autonomic input. Local chemicals within the system are going to have a say in contraction regulation. And this is also, stretch is also going to play a role. So this is one where all three vary very markedly. The last category we're going to go over here is energetics. Energetics, so how it's making the energy it needs to contract. For skeletal muscle, this is going to be aerobic or with oxygen, or anaerobic. Anaerobic. So with oxygen or in the absence of oxygen. For cardiac muscle tissue, it's only aerobic. Only aerobic. If we were able to have cardiac tissue run anaerobically, less people will die of heart attacks. And for the smooth muscle, it's going to be mostly aerobic. mostly aerobic. Let's go up here again. Let's go over the top part really quick. We've got skeletal muscle located on bones, cardiac in the heart, in the walls of the heart, and smooth muscle in hollow organs. Skeletal and cardiac cannot divide after birth, while smooth muscle can. We went over cell shape and nucleation and striations, the difference in the connective tissue organization, presence of T-tubules and sarcoplasmic reticulum and gap junctions, whether or not these types of muscles have neuromuscular junctions, contraction regulation, and energetics. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next week.